Later that night, Amanda tucked Hope into bed, her heart still light from the evening. She prayed softly over her daughter, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you," she said, "for bringing us here, even if it is only for a short while." She knew life could change in a moment. But for now, she was grateful. She would not waste this chance. Meanwhile, Mabel sat alone in her room, plotting. She could not sit and watch this nonsense any longer. If Williams would not see Amanda's true colours, she would make sure he did. She would expose her, disgrace her, and send her far, far away from this house. A cruel smile touched her lips as she began to form a plan, one that would leave no mercy. The rain fell gently that evening, tapping on the windows like a soft drumbeat. Amanda stood by the living room shelves, dusting the wooden frames that held old photographs. Some were of Williams, standing with other important-looking men in suits. Others showed him shaking hands with crowds of people, bright banners stretched in the background. She paused at one, a younger Williams, smiling widely, holding a little girl who had the same sharp eyes as Hope. Amanda touched the frame lightly, feeling a deep ache for him. "You are looking at old memories," Williams said from behind her. Amanda jumped slightly and turned. "I am sorry, sir," she said quickly. "I did not mean to—" "It is all right," he said, walking slowly into the room. He joined her by the shelf, his hands clasped loosely behind his back. "That was during my first campaign," he said, nodding at one of the photos. "I was so full of hope. I thought I could fix everything." Amanda listened, careful not to interrupt. "I was just a businessman then," he said. "I did not know how dirty politics could be." His voice held a bitter edge. Amanda tilted her head. "But you still stayed," she said quietly. William smiled a little sadly. "I stayed because if good people leave, bad people win," he said. Amanda nodded, admiring his strength. "There is a big event coming up next week," he said after a moment. "A fundraising dinner." He gave a small laugh. "Fancy suits, fake smiles, promises nobody will keep." Amanda smiled shyly. "It sounds important." "It is," he said, "too important to go alone." He turned to face her fully. "I want you to come with me," he said. Amanda's mouth fell open. "Sir?" she whispered, unable to believe her ears. William smiled slightly. "You have a good heart, Amanda," he said, "and you are honest. I need someone real beside me, not another smooth talker or pretender." Amanda's heart pounded wildly. "But sir, I have nothing to wear," she stammered, feeling the weight of her simple clothes. Williams waved a hand dismissively. "Leave that to me," he said. The next day, a large box arrived at the mansion. It was wrapped in gold paper with a neat white ribbon. Amanda stared at it as if it might explode. Sir Williams stood nearby, pretending to be busy with his phone. "Go ahead," he said gruffly. "Open it." Amanda set Hope down and untied the ribbon carefully. Inside, nestled in soft white tissue, was the most beautiful gown she had ever seen. It was a deep blue, like the night sky just before stars appeared. The fabric shimmered when she touched it, soft and cool under her fingers. I cannot accept this," Amanda whispered, stepping back. "You can and you will," William said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Consider it a uniform for the night." Amanda laughed softly, overwhelmed. "Thank you, sir," she said, blinking back tears. Williams gave her a quick nod, almost embarrassed. "Someone will come tomorrow to help you get ready," he said. "Hair, shoes, everything." Amanda hugged Hope tightly, feeling the weight of his kindness. She had never owned anything so beautiful. And certainly, she had never been asked to stand beside someone so important. That night, as she tucked Hope into bed, Amanda sat quietly by the little mattress, brushing her daughter's soft curls. "God is doing something big for us," she whispered. Hope yawned and snuggled closer. Amanda leaned down, kissing her forehead. Whatever tomorrow held, she would walk into it with courage. for hope, for herself, and maybe, just maybe, for a man who was slowly learning how to smile again. The house buzzed with quiet excitement the afternoon of the event. A team of stylists arrived, moving through the mansion like a soft breeze. Amanda stood frozen in her small room, watching them unpack cases filled with makeup, brushes, shiny shoes, and sparkling jewelry. A kind woman named Clara approached her, smiling warmly. "Do not be nervous," Clara said gently. "You are going to look like a queen." Amanda gave a small, nervous laugh. "I have never done anything like this before," she confessed. Clara touched her arm kindly. "First time for everything," she said. "Come, sit." Amanda obeyed, sitting on the edge of the bed while Clara and another stylist worked carefully. They brushed her hair into soft waves that framed her face. Light makeup was added, just enough to make her features glow without hiding her natural beauty. When they were done, Clara stepped back, admiring their work. "You are ready," she said with a proud smile. Amanda stood and looked at herself in the mirror. For a moment, she did not recognize the girl staring back. She looked beautiful. Her simple spirit still shone through, but there was a quiet strength in her eyes now. Amanda wore the deep blue gown that hugged her figure modestly and fell to the floor like water. The silver shoes peeking out matched perfectly, and a small silver necklace sat gently at her throat. She touched the fabric lightly, still not believing it was real. Hope clapped her hands from where she sat on the bed, her little face full of wonder. "Mama, you look like a princess," she said. Amanda turned, laughing softly. "Thank you, my darling," she said, lifting Hope for a quick hug. A soft knock came at the door. Clara opened it slightly, peeking out. "Sir Williams is ready to see you," she said. Amanda's heart pounded. With trembling hands, she walked slowly through the hall toward the grand staircase. William stood at the bottom, adjusting the cuff of his black suit. He looked up as he heard the soft steps. And then he froze. For a long moment, he simply stared. Amanda descended slowly, each step making the gown shimmer under the chandelier lights. Williams, a man who had faced the roughest storms in business and politics, found himself speechless. When Amanda reached the bottom, she lowered her head slightly. "I hope I am dressed properly, sir," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Williams cleared his throat. "You are perfect," he said, his voice rough. Amanda lifted her eyes and smiled shyly. "Thank you for everything, sir," she said. Williams offered his arm. "Shall we?" he asked. Amanda placed her hand lightly on his arm, her fingers trembling slightly. Hope waved from the hallway, a wide smile on her little face. Amanda gave her a small wink before Williams led her outside to the waiting car. The ride to the hotel where the event was held was quiet at first. Amanda stared out the window, watching the city lights dance by. After a while, Williams spoke. "You do not have to be afraid," he said. "You belong there as much as anyone." Amanda turned to him, surprised. "But sir, they are all rich, important people," she said. "And what makes a person important?" Williams asked. Amanda thought for a moment. "Maybe their kindness," she said softly, "and the way they treat others." Williams smiled. "Then you are already more important than most people who will be in that room tonight," he said. Amanda's heart swelled with courage. She nodded, gripping her small silver clutch tightly. When they arrived, the Grand Hotel was ablaze with lights. Expensive cars lined the entrance. Elegant men and women floated up the marble steps, laughter and music drifting through the giant glass doors. As Amanda stepped out of the car with Williams, heads turned. There was a brief hush. People whispered. Some looked curious, others surprised, but Amanda kept her head high. She walked beside Williams, her hand resting lightly on his arm, her steps steady. Inside the ballroom, chandeliers sparkled like 1,000 stars. Soft music played as waiters moved smoothly between tables, carrying silver trays of food. Williams leaned down slightly, Smile if you can, he said quietly. And remember, no one here is better than you. Amanda smiled up at him, feeling his quiet strength pouring into her. She would not shame him. She would stand proud, for hope, for herself. And maybe, though she barely dared to think it, for him too. The evening passed in a soft blur of handshakes, polite conversations and clinking glasses. Amanda spoke little, but when she did, her words were kind and true. Williams watched her with quiet pride, answering questions but never straying far from her side. At one point, a powerful senator approached. "New face?" he asked Williams with a sly smile. Williams tightened his arm around Amanda. "My date," he said simply. Amanda felt a fierce blush rise to her cheeks, but she stood steady, her heart soaring. Later, as they drove back to the mansion under the soft blanket of night, Amanda leaned her head against the cool glass window. "Thank you, sir," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Williams glanced at her. "For what?" "For believing in me," she whispered. Williams said nothing for a long time. Then he spoke, his voice low and steady. "Sometimes," he said, "it takes someone real to remind you what truly matters." Amanda closed her eyes, smiling softly. Tonight she had not just worn a gown. She had stepped into a new life. And somehow she knew. This was only the beginning. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows, casting soft golden light across the marble floors of the mansion. Amanda hummed quietly as she worked, dusting the large sitting room. She moved carefully, making sure everything was spotless, as she had done every day since she arrived. Hope was at the back garden playing with one of the maids, and for now Amanda had the house almost to herself. She reached up to polish the edges of a tall bookshelf, standing on her toes to reach the highest point. So focused was she that she did not hear the approaching footsteps. She did not sense his presence until a deep voice spoke behind her. "Amanda." Amanda jumped slightly, nearly dropping the duster. She turned around quickly, her heart pounding. Williams stood a few feet away, his arms crossed lightly over his chest. His face was unreadable, but his eyes held something thoughtful. "Good morning, sir," Amanda said quickly, lowering her head. Williams stepped closer, his gaze running over the cleaning supplies scattered around her feet. He frowned slightly. "Are you still doing this?" he asked almost to himself. Amanda looked confused. "Sir," she said carefully. Before Williams could respond, Mabel entered the room carrying a pile of freshly folded linen. She paused when she saw them together, her eyes narrowing ever so slightly. Williams turned to Mabel without hesitation. "From today onward," he said in a voice that brooked no argument, "Amanda will no longer be doing cleaning work." The room seemed to fall into a heavy silence. Amanda blinked, sure she had heard wrong. Mabel stiffened, her mouth opening in shock. "Sir?" she said, trying to keep her voice respectful. But she is part of the housekeeping team." Williams shook his head. "Not anymore," he said firmly. "She will be given a new assignment, one that better fits her abilities." Mabel's face tightened. "And what will she be doing, sir?" she asked sharply. Williams gave a small smile, one that held no warmth. "That is not your concern," he said. "Just know that I have made my decision." He turned back to Amanda, who was standing frozen, duster still in her hand. "Also," he continued smoothly, "arrange for Amanda to be moved out of the staff quarters. She will take one of the guest suites on the east wing. Make sure she has everything she needs." This time Mabel could not hide her outrage. "But sir," she burst out, "the guest suites are for important visitors." Williams raised a brow, his voice dropping dangerously. "And she is important," he said simply. "Do you have a problem with that?" Mabel clenched her hands around the linen until her knuckles turned white. "No, sir," she said through gritted teeth. "Good," Williams said, his tone final. He turned to Amanda again. softer now. You will have someone assist you in moving your things after breakfast. Amanda could only nod, her throat too tight to speak. Williams gave her one last, lingering look before leaving the room, his footsteps fading into the hallway. Amanda stood rooted to the spot, still trying to understand what had just happened. The moment Williams disappeared, Mabel turned sharply to Amanda, her face twisted with rage. Amanda stepped back instinctively, her heart pounding. "You think you are smart, don't you?" Mabel spat, stepping closer until she was almost nose to nose with Amanda. "Flashing your innocent little smile at him, acting like a helpless saint." Amanda shook her head, panic rising in her chest. "I did not do anything," she said quickly. "I never—" Mabel laughed coldly, the sound harsh in the grand, empty room. "Do not lie to me," she hissed. "I know your type, poor little thing with a child in your arms looking for a man to save you." Amanda's hands trembled as she clutched the duster against her chest. "You are nothing but a cheap prostitute," Mabel sneered, "thinking you can warm his bed and climb to the top like the others." Amanda's eyes widened in shock, shame burning her cheeks. I would never, she tried to say. But Mabel cut her off with a wave of her hand, her voice dripping with disgust. "Save your tears. You might have fooled him with your sad little story, but not me. I see you for what you really are." Mabel's eyes raked Amanda from head to toe with pure disdain. "Enjoy your fancy room while you can," she said in a low, dangerous voice. "It will not last. Girls like you never last." With that, she turned sharply on her heel and stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. Amanda stood frozen, the heavy words sinking deep into her heart. Her chest ached with humiliation, but she straightened her back slowly. She had faced worse. She would survive this too. For herself. For hope. No matter what poison Mabel threw at her. Later that afternoon, a housekeeper, one of the kinder ones, helped Amanda pack her few belongings. Her small room in the servants' quarters felt even smaller now, as she folded the few clothes she owned into a neat pile. Hope was excited, clapping her hands when she heard they were moving to a big new room. Amanda smiled at her daughter, but inside her heart was a knot of worry. This was too sudden. Why was Williams doing all this? What did he want from her? And more importantly, could she trust him? When they entered the new room, Amanda could hardly believe her eyes. It was beautiful. A large bed with soft white covers, a small sitting area by the wide windows, a private bathroom with marble floors. Hope ran around the room, laughing with joy. Amanda watched her, smiling through her fear. Whatever was happening, she would stay strong. For herself, for her daughter, and for whatever lay ahead. Amanda sat by the window of her new room, the cool night breeze brushing against her skin. She watched the stars blinking in the dark sky, their quiet beauty stirring something deep inside her. Hope slept soundly in the large bed, curled up like a tiny kitten, unaware of the heavy thoughts weighing on her mother's heart. A soft knock came at the door. Amanda quickly wiped her face, not realizing tears had been falling. "Come in," she said, her voice steady. The door opened, and Williams stepped in, dressed in a simple black shirt and dark trousers. His face was calm, but there was something gentle in his eyes, something Amanda had not noticed before. "I hope I am not disturbing you," he said, his voice soft. Amanda stood, feeling small in the big room. "No, sir," she said quickly. "Not at all." William stepped closer, his hands in his pockets. "I just wanted to check on you," he said. "And, if you're not too tired, I would like to talk for a bit." Amanda hesitated, then nodded. "Of course, sir," she said. Williams pulled a chair close to the window and sat down, motioning for her to sit too. Amanda sat carefully on the edge of the seat, her hands folded in her lap. For a moment, they both just listened to the wind outside. Then Williams spoke, his voice low. "I realized I do not know much about you, Amanda," he said. "I know you work hard. I know you love your daughter. But what are your dreams? What do you want for yourself?" Amanda blinked, surprised. No one had asked her that in a very long time. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words caught in her throat. "You do not have to answer if you are not ready," Williams added gently. "I am only asking because I would like to know the real you, if you are willing to share." Amanda looked down at her hands. Dreams. What dreams could a girl like her have anymore? "I used to dream of becoming a nurse," she said finally, her voice soft. "I wanted to help people, heal them." William smiled a little, nodding. "I can see that," he said. "You have a kind heart." Amanda swallowed hard. "But life," she paused, gathering her courage. "Life had other plans." Williams leaned back, giving her space. "I would like to hear it," he said, "if you want to tell me." Amanda closed her eyes briefly, then opened them. "I married a man named Charles," she began. "At first he was charming, kind. I thought he would take care of me." She laughed bitterly. "But after the wedding he changed. He started drinking. He started hitting me." William's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent, letting her speak. "I found out I was pregnant with Hope not long after he first beat me," Amanda continued. "I thought maybe, just maybe, the baby would change him." She shook her head. "It only got worse. One night he left and never came back. I was alone, no money, no family nearby. When I could not pay the rent, the landlord threw me out." Tears shimmered in her eyes, but she blinked them away. "I wandered the streets with hope growing inside me. I begged for food. I slept wherever I could find shelter." Williams bowed his head slightly, as if he carried her pain inside himself. "And now here you are," he said quietly. "Still standing, still fighting." Amanda gave a small, broken smile. "I had no choice," she whispered. "Hope needs me. She is all I have." Williams reached into his pocket and pulled out a small handkerchief, holding it out to her. Amanda hesitated, then took it, wiping her eyes. "You are stronger than most people I know," Williams said. "Stronger than most politicians too, I can tell you that." Amanda gave a shaky laugh at that. Williams leaned forward slightly. "I want you to know," he said carefully, "that you are safe here. No one will hurt you again under this roof." Amanda looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time she saw not just the powerful man everyone feared, but a man who had lost so much, yet still cared enough to offer kindness to a broken woman like her. "Thank you, sir," she said, her voice trembling with sincerity. Williams nodded, standing up slowly. "I will leave you to rest," he said. "Tomorrow is a new day, Amanda, and maybe a new beginning too." He gave her a small, warm smile and stepped out, closing the door softly behind him. Amanda sat there long after he was gone, the handkerchief still clutched in her hands, her heart pounding with something she had not dared feel in a long time. Hope. Amanda smoothed down her simple skirt and took a deep breath. Today was her first day in her new role. She glanced at the notebook Williams had given her. Inside were neat lists of tasks, appointments to remember, small errands to handle, important calls to make. Amanda clutched the book tightly to her chest. This was nothing like cleaning floors or polishing windows. This was real responsibility. Her heart pounded as she made her way to William's office. The grand wooden door stood tall and wide before her. She raised her hand to knock, but before she could, she heard his voice from inside. "Come in, Amanda," Williams called. Amanda swallowed and pushed the door open. Williams sat behind a large desk, papers neatly stacked around him, a laptop open. He looked up as she entered, his face serious but kind. "Good morning, Amanda," he said. "Good morning, sir," she answered, stepping closer. Williams leaned back in his chair. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Ready for today?" Amanda gave a small, nervous smile. "I will do my best, sir," she said. He nodded approvingly. "That is all I ask." Amanda glanced down for a moment, and a sudden memory flashed through her mind. The day Williams had calmly told Mabel that Amanda would no longer be a cleaner, but would work as his personal assistant. She could still see Mabel's face, wide with shock, burning with anger she could not hide. The memory made Amanda bite her lip to hold back a sudden laugh. It had been one of the few moments Amanda truly felt seen and valued. She shook the memory away and focused back on Williams. He rose and walked around the desk holding out a folder. "In here are some simple tasks," he explained. "Confirm my meeting with the minister for next week, send a birthday card to an old friend, and call my tailor to fix a button on my jacket." Amanda took the folder carefully, reading through the list. Simple, but also terrifying. She had never spoken to ministers or important people before. What if she said the wrong thing? What if she embarrassed him? As if reading her mind, Williams gave a small smile. "You do not have to be perfect," he said gently. "Just do it your way. Be polite. Be honest. That is enough." Amanda nodded, feeling a little steadier. "Thank you, sir," she said softly. Williams returned to his seat. "One more thing," he added. "I want you to tell me if you ever feel overwhelmed. This is new for you. It is normal to need help." Amanda's throat tightened. Nobody had ever said such words to her before. She nodded quickly, blinking back sudden tears. "Yes, sir," she said. He smiled again. "All right then, let us begin." The hours passed quickly. Amanda sat at a small desk outside William's office, making calls, sending emails under his guidance, and jotting down notes carefully. At first, her voice trembled on the phone, but after a few tries, she grew more confident. When she spoke to the minister's secretary, she managed to fix the meeting with only a few stumbles. When she called the tailor, she explained the jacket problem clearly, even making the tailor laugh with a shy joke about how important buttons were for powerful men. Williams watched her quietly through the glass walls of his office. He said nothing, but a proud smile touched his lips. By lunchtime, Amanda leaned back in her chair, exhausted, but happy. Hope had spent the morning playing in the safe nursery room Williams had set up for her, watched over by a kind young nanny. Amanda knew her daughter was safe, fed, and happy, something she had not been able to say for a very long time. Williams stepped out of his office just as Amanda was organising the last of her notes. "Well done," he said simply. Amanda looked up at him, her cheeks glowing with pride. "Thank you, sir," she said. He nodded once. "You are learning fast," he said, "and you are stronger than you think." Amanda held his gaze, feeling something warm rise in her chest. Not love yet, not romance, but something powerful. Respect, trust, hope. "Thank you for giving me a chance," she said quietly. Williams gave a small smile and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, just for a second, before moving past her toward the dining room. Amanda sat there for a moment longer, letting the feeling sink in. For the first time in a long time, she was not just surviving, she was living. And maybe, just maybe, life still had beautiful surprises left for her and little hope. Amanda had changed. Everyone in the mansion could see it. Even the walls seemed to notice. Gone was the quiet, hesitant girl who once mopped floors in silence. In her place stood a woman who spoke with quiet confidence, who sat in meetings, asked sharp questions, and closed deals that made even seasoned agents nod in approval. Amanda was no longer just part of the household. She had become part of the empire. It started small. Williams had asked her to join a simple meeting about one of his real estate projects. At first, Amanda only listened. But when a land agent tried to push for a questionable deal, she leaned forward and asked one question. A smart question. The kind of question that made the room go silent for a beat before Williams smiled faintly and said, "She's right. Let's review that clause again." From that moment, she wasn't just listening anymore. Now Amanda managed schedules, reviewed contracts, and even visited project sites. Her phone buzzed constantly. Her notepad was always full. She was learning fast, absorbing everything like dry earth drinking in rain. Williams began to rely on her, not just for small errands, but for real decisions. He started inviting her to private strategy meetings. When clients called, he handed the phone to her. "Talk to Amanda," he'd say. "She knows what I want." One afternoon, after she successfully renegotiated a stalled building project and saved the company millions in potential losses, Williams walked into her office, the same one that used to be a guest sitting room, and said, "You know you've become one of the sharpest minds on my team, don't you?" Amanda blinked, unsure if she had heard him right. "I'm just learning," she said. He looked at her, eyes steady. "No, you're building." Amanda couldn't stop the smile that formed. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was shaping her own future. Meanwhile, Hope had begun homeschool. A soft-spoken tutor, carefully selected by Williams, arrived every weekday morning. The small classroom, once a storage room, had been transformed into a child's paradise. Low tables, colourful books, learning charts, and soft carpets. Hope took to learning like a butterfly to flowers. She was curious, eager, and full of wonder. Every day she ran to Amanda to show her a new letter she had learned, a picture she had drawn, or a story she had heard. Amanda tried to balance it all, work and motherhood, but for the first time it didn't feel like she was drowning. She had help, she had structure, she had hope, in every sense of the word. But not everyone was happy about her growth. Whispers were starting again. Some staff wondered why Williams gave her so much trust. Some said she was just a cleaner who got lucky. Others suspected more. Amanda tried not to listen, but the looks, the pauses when she entered a room, she noticed. Still, she didn't shrink. She rose. Each time she walked into a meeting, she reminded herself of everything she had survived: hunger, heartbreak, betrayal. Compared to that, cold stares meant nothing. One evening, as the sun melted behind the tall gates of the mansion, Amanda found herself on the balcony with Williams. They had just finished a long meeting with foreign investors. Amanda had spoken with such clarity and poise that even the guests had complimented her. Williams stood beside her now, holding a glass of water. He glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "You've changed everything," he said. Amanda looked at him, puzzled. "Sir?" "This house," he continued. "My business. Even me. You brought life back into things that were slowly dying." Amanda's throat tightened. She looked away, heart pounding. She hadn't expected words like that, not from him. "Thank you, sir," she whispered. He nodded slowly, then added, "And hope. That little girl has reminded me what it means to smile again." They stood in silence, the breeze brushing against their faces. Below them, the lights of the city blinked like stars scattered on the earth. Amanda didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But tonight, standing there beside the man who had once wanted to throw her in jail, she felt something powerful growing between them. Not just respect, not just partnership. Something deeper. Something neither of them had spoken aloud. Yet. Mabel had always known her place in the house. She had worn her uniform with pride, walked with authority, and made sure the staff followed her word like law. For years, she had served Williams without question, and he had trusted her. Until Amanda came. Mabel had watched, jaw tight, as the once quiet girl slowly rose through the mansion like steam from hot water, from sweeping floors to attending meetings, from sleeping in a cramped room to walking through the house with files tucked under her arm like she belonged, like she was important. Mabel couldn't hide her fury anymore. The final straw came when Amanda gave her instructions on a new guest schedule, instructions that came directly from Williams. The humiliation burned her like fire. Who does she think she is? Mabel muttered to herself that evening as she stood in the kitchen, slicing tomatoes with more force than necessary. A housegirl turned queen. Not while I'm still breathing. Her hands trembled. Her thoughts were dark. She remembered a small brown bottle hidden in the back of her drawer, one her cousin had given her years ago, warning, "Just a few drops. Quiet and strong." That night, when Amanda's dinner was set on the tray, boiled yam and vegetable sauce, Mabel moved quickly. Her fingers were steady as she opened the tiny bottle. 3 drops, no more. Then she stirred the sauce, covered the plate, and carried it up like she always did. Amanda was in her office reviewing property reports. "Thank you, Mabel," she said, barely looking up. "You've been working so hard, you need to eat, madam," Mabel replied with a fake smile. Amanda smiled back. "You're right. I'll eat soon." 10 minutes later, she took her first bite. It started with a burning in her stomach. Then her vision blurred. Her hands trembled, and her pen dropped to the floor. Something was wrong. She stumbled out of the chair, clutching her side. Her breath came in sharp gasps. She tried to call for help, but the words wouldn't come out. A maid found her collapsed by the door and screamed. Within minutes, the house was in chaos. Williams had just returned from a late meeting when he heard the noise. He rushed up the stairs, 2 steps at a time. "Amanda!" he shouted, his voice cracking as he saw her lifeless on the floor. "Get the car! Now!" he barked at the guards. Williams held Amanda in his arms all the way to the hospital, whispering her name like a prayer. "Stay with me. Please, stay with me." The next few hours were a blur of doctors, nurses, and beeping machines. Amanda was unconscious. Williams didn't leave the hospital. He stayed in the hallway, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the floor. His mind raced through 1,000 possibilities, but deep inside he felt it. This wasn't an accident. A day passed, then 2. Amanda didn't wake up. On the 3rd day, the doctor called Williams into his office. "We found traces of a substance in her system," the doctor said, choosing his words carefully. Williams stiffened. "What kind of substance?" "A poison. Mild but targeted. It was mixed with something she ate." Silence. "She's lucky, sir. A few more hours and she would not have made it. We've flushed it out and she's stabilizing, but recovery will take time." Williams rose slowly from the chair. His hands were clenched into fists. "I will get to the root of this." He said more to himself than the doctor standing before him. Amanda opened her eyes a week later. The room was quiet, filled with soft light. Her body ached. Her throat was dry, but her vision cleared enough to see Williams seated by her bed, fast asleep in the chair, still wearing yesterday's shirt. Her lips parted. "Sir." He jerked awake, eyes wide with relief. "Amanda," he whispered, leaning forward. "You're awake." What happened?" she croaked. His voice broke as he answered. "You were poisoned." Her eyes widened, terror filling her. "But you're safe now," he added quickly. "You're safe." Amanda's heart beat faster as everything began to make sense. The pain, the hospital, the blurred memories. And then she remembered Mabel's cold stare, her words, her anger. Williams gently held her hand. "I'll handle it," he said. "No one will hurt you again. I promise." Amanda closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. Not because she was afraid, but because someone had tried to end her, and someone had stayed to save her. The mansion was quiet when Williams returned. The guards at the gate stood straighter than usual. Everyone had heard what happened. Amanda had nearly died. And now, a storm was coming. Williams walked through the front door without a word, his eyes dark and unreadable. He didn't stop to greet anyone. He headed straight for the servant quarters. Mabel was waiting, sitting on the edge of her bed with her arms folded tightly. She had heard he was on his way. She had expected shouting. What she didn't expect was the look in his eyes. Not rage, not chaos, but silence. Cold, cutting silence. "Mabel," William said, stepping inside. She stood slowly, chin lifted. "Sir." He looked around the room for a second as though he were seeing it for the first time. Then his gaze settled on her. "I want to ask you something," he said quietly. "And I want you to tell me the truth." She didn't reply. "Did you poison Amanda?"